Welcome to session 13 and stage 2 of your Way recovery for the family, friend, and community support group. Going forward, in addition to your guided meditation practice, I will be including a class I teach called Become More Centered. I'm really excited to teach this class. It's a meditation class designed to deepen your experience of meditation. Now, it'll repeat a little bit on the initial foundation we built, but it will expand well beyond that and actually help deepen your understanding of meditation as a whole. It will also include some additional practices. So I just want to say congratulations on coming this far. I am inspired by your commitment. I know how hard it can be. And this is the point where you start to really reap the rewards of your work. So I'm excited to share this next stage of the journey with you. We'll begin with lesson 1 of Become More Centered, from beginning to advanced meditation practices. Welcome to your first class number 1 of Become More Centered. And the purpose of this class is to take you from beginning meditation level to advanced, and I'm talking high advanced meditation level, in just weeks, not years, not decades, but in just weeks. Welcome to your first class of Become More Centered. First of all, I just want to open up and ask you, what are your definitions of meditation? How good are you? Do you struggle? Is it difficult? I know people that have been meditating for decades and still struggle with meditation the way they were taught meditation. The first thing I want to say is, if you do struggle, it's not your fault. Meditation is not always taught with the clarity it could be taught. And so that's what I really want to establish here. I really want to establish clear meditation practices so everyone can get the full health benefits, the mental, the emotional, the physical regulation that meditation offers us, the overall health and well-being that we get from being master meditators. I want to put this in as a practice where everyone can dig in and really get to be in that master meditator space. So I want to begin with this quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "Meditation is not passive sitting in silence. It is sitting in awareness, free from distraction, and realizing the clear understanding that arises from concentration." Now, this is really important. This is a really powerful thing to learn about meditation, and that is that so many meditation practices are teaching us to just try and quiet the mind. And today I'm going to talk about why that doesn't work for most people, that where your mind has to be already to take advantage from that is too far advanced. So it's really important that we understand how meditation actually works, because if we don't understand it, we can't take full advantage of it. So that's my whole goal here, is to help us understand meditation as something more than we are taught it is. And I want to begin by breaking down this quote. First, I want to talk about this first sentence. Meditation is not passive sitting in silence. I often speak about the rest and digest state of the primal mind. You know, we have fight or flight, rest and digest. Rest and digest is a passive act, right? When we're in primal states of consciousness, we're subject to conditions. So we're subject to that tiger chasing us. Now, we can't control the tiger. A lot of people are experiencing tigers in their lives right now. There's a lot happening in our world right now. So between COVID-19 and wherever you land on that, whether you feel like we're doing too much or it's not enough, or if your job is affected, if your income is lessened by this, if your the earthquakes that we're having in Utah, a lot of people are feeling stressed by that. So these are tigers we can't control. We can't control how the world reacts to COVID-19. We can't control the virus itself. we can't control the earthquakes. That's not something we have any control over. And to try and just say that we can control the subconscious mind's reaction to that becomes at the best an ongoing fight. At the worst, it becomes a defeat, where we tend to live at the mercy of externals. So we live in this rest and digest state. We live reactive to situations. So, for example, meditation is often taught as sitting in silence, as this passive sitting in silence. How hard is it for you to sit in silence? How hard is it for you to just completely silence your mind, especially during an earthquake or in dealing with the situations that are occurring around us? How easy is it for you to then become quiet, right? And Chick is saying here, meditation is not that. It is not passive sitting in silence. He says it is sitting in awareness, free from distraction. This is mindfulness. And a lot of us have learned mindfulness, and mindfulness is a great centering practice. But as he goes on to say more. So this is the first part where we first learn to sit, and we sit in awareness. I'm going to go deeper into mindfulness and where it fits in meditation practice. It's not a complete meditation practice. There is a deeper level to it that is known by the masters, but only taught at levels of mastery. So a person has to be able to sit in perfect mindfulness for the masters to finally teach them the next stages of meditation that he talks about here in this quote. He says that it is sitting in awareness, free from distraction, and realizing the clear. Oh, I didn't have the full last part of that word. I do want to stop here. I don't want to go on to the clear understanding. I should have included clear understanding. This is expansion, clarity. This is the epiphany that he's talking about. Meditation is designed to expand consciousness. So this is that epiphanal state. Again, I'll go deeper into that, but it's the understanding that arises from concentration. And these are the key words here, where he's talking about states of concentration. And most of us, this is our sticking point if we can get to those more advanced stages. And that is the fact that concentration and awareness, mindfulness, seem to be in conflict with one another because they are stages of progression. When met at an early stage, concentration becomes control, and control is not mindfulness. Mindfulness is an act of surrender. So how do we surrender and concentrate? And that's what I want to teach you, is how to move into those advanced stages and move into them easily, right? It's like it says at the beginning in the image at the beginning, it's moving from beginning stages to advanced meditation practices in just weeks, not months, not decades, in just weeks, being able to hit those more advanced stages. And that's what I'm going to dig into today. And so a lot of practices teach us only basic meditation. I'm here to talk about the advanced practice, but only as we become centered in the beginning practices. So that's what we'll move through over the next few weeks, so that we can be in meditation practices used by master meditators. If you can implement what I'm teaching here in just 30 days, I'm going to say about 4 weeks is my goal for the class, 4 to 5 weeks. So in about 30 days, I'm going to say that again, in 30 days, you can be meditating like someone who has practiced meditation for 30 years by many of the teachings because of the approach. And that's what I want to get into today. I want to explain why that is, why I say I can help you meditate at a master meditation level in 30 days rather than 30 years. That's saying a lot, and I back up my words. So that's what I want to present to you today. So what I want to do is talk about, I have a quote here of mine. Meditation is not designed to be a moment of stillness in a life of chaos. It is designed to be a life of stillness that easily manages chaos. A lot of people are using meditation as a reprieve or as an escape. So life is this conflict or this struggle, and they're using meditation to then move from that space of struggle into a quiet moment. But then they leave the quiet moment. I hear it said all the time. I've been to thousands and thousands of meditations, and I hear it over and over again. Bring yourself back into the room. Like meditation is this place to escape that doesn't exist in our day-to-day reality. So meditation is not a means. It's the end. It's the end state. We want to live in a meditative state. It's the result of a specific brain function. I'm going to get into that more. I do go into more detail about the brain functions. So in a nutshell, think of it this way. We all know that anxiety is a result of fight or flight trigger, right? That's common knowledge, that if we're triggered, we are reactive, right? We know this is a brain function, and we know it's caused by the triggering of the amygdala. That is common knowledge. Now, under the same rules of anatomy, a calm and confident mind is the result of brain function as well, right? It's not that some experiences of life are a result of brain function and others aren't. So if my stress state is a result of brain function, so is my calm, centered state. A good example of this is of approaching brain function rather than approaching the state. So a lot of meditation is being taught that you practice the state of consciousness to train the brain into the state of consciousness. And this, again, takes decades to learn. So a good example of this in relative terms for people who haven't been meditating for years is think of therapy. Think of a therapeutic process. So think of the state of depression. With a good therapist, how long does it take to have a significant shift, to have a significant effect on depression? So if you have ever suffered depression, how long would you be in therapy before you felt significant results where you'd say, yeah, actually I'm feeling a significant relief of my depression? Now I want you to ask on the opposing side, if you took a pharmaceutical for depression. So you took an antidepressant, and this was an effective antidepressant. I know there's variables. How soon would you achieve results from the pharmaceutical? So in comparison, now most therapists or let's say psychiatrists, most psychiatrists prescribe pharmaceuticals because they know the therapeutic process is going to take much longer than the pharmaceuticals will take to relieve depression. Now, over time, you can get a permanent result from the therapeutic process that allows you to eventually wean yourself off the pharmaceutical. But in the beginning, you're going to get a faster result out of the pharmaceutical because the pharmaceutical is approaching the brain function. It's affecting the chemical to cause a relief to the depression, right? And that we then require the pharmaceutical for that chemical, where the therapeutic process can return us to a state of homeostasis where we're not triggered enough to be in depression. But that can take, again, decades, lifetimes for some. So we're not going to try and control the conditions to alter the brain function. We're going to do what the brain does organically. We're going to alter the brain function to control the condition. In the same way, pharmaceuticals alter the brain chemistry to control how we feel. So to do that, I want to go in now and review with you the stages of meditation. So I want to break down this concept that Thich Nhat Hanh is sharing in his quote there. That is a step-by-step process he is describing in this very concise way. And so I want to break down that process and talk about the stages of meditation, because those stages become beginning to advanced. And those are the stages we're going to move through over the next few weeks as we do this course. So we're going to talk about stage 1, and I do want to let people know stage 1 is the same as phase 1 in my program. My phases are really stages of meditation practice. They're just approached from the brain function perspective. Today I'm going to approach them from the perspective of meditation. So stage 1 of a meditation practice is to relax the mind and observe the self. So the first stage of meditation is really critical, and it's often missed, and I want to make sure we solidly address it here. And so this will be our first practice. We want to make sure that the brain is not in a heightened state of trigger. So the highest state of self-awareness is being triggered in a fight or flight response. So we're in this state of high self-awareness. Now, most people think self-awareness is about being in that meditative state, but actually the most self-aware we are is when we are triggered. And the reason why is we're caught in that loop of our own thoughts. We're caught in our current perception of reality. So whatever loop we think about the world or whatever condition we believe we're being affected by, we're caught in that perception and we can't see beyond it. So we're in this state where we're only aware of ourselves. And so a good thing to do is we're already in that mental state. Now, trying to be in a mental state you're not in by just deciding to be in it isn't how the brain works. So people can tell you, just think positive, just do affirmations, just do this. But if your brain is triggered, it's not capable of that. So we can't control the state of consciousness by just deciding to change the state of consciousness. The state of consciousness is a result of a brain function. And when we're in that state, we can't see beyond it. I mean, how many times have you been in a space where you're stressed or upset and people will say, well, just don't think about it. Well, just think positive. It's frustrating because we are literally anatomically, biologically not able to do that. What happens when the amygdala triggers, when we go into that fight or flight state, we shut down the prefrontal cortex. So the ability to think in the prefrontal cortex is gone. That's a function of the brain. And so we are stuck in this box that is our trigger. And to best address that, the easiest way to address that is just become aware of where we are. Right? Now, I'm not talking about the kind of awareness that's about the realization that's at that higher level. It's more just, okay, I'm aware I'm in a triggered state, right? And so when we begin a meditation, we want to observe ourselves. But what we want to do is observe ourselves calming the triggered state. To try and eliminate the box is not the way to solve this. We need boxes. We need structure. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as we move through to the more advanced stages. But we need structure. So we're not trying to meditate at this level. Meditation in a state of stress is impossible. I love that the medical community is assigning meditation more than prescriptions a lot of the time. When people are stressed, they're saying meditate more. But to meditate from a stress state is not possible for us. To do that, we must first calm that engaged amygdala, that part of our brain that isn't calm, that's in its static state right now. So we're just becoming a little more calm than we were when we began the meditation. Now, a lot of times we don't realize we're somewhat triggered when we are. So it is the most important thing, and I teach this, and we'll get more into this next week, is to always have a calming state in your meditation practice. No matter how good you think your day is going, even if you're having a great day, to take meditation one stage at a time is critical to build a healthy practice. So again, we're going to talk, next week's focus is really going to be on how to do stage one really well. But we just want to get ourselves into a state that says, okay, now I'm preparing to meditate. We're letting the mind know that we're taking this action, we are about to move into this state, right? Because then as we build that practice, the brain will move into that state more readily. So we just want to acknowledge this moment where we're going to calm down, right? We're just going to breathe or to become aware of sensory information. Again, I'll get into more practices. There are so many people that struggle with meditation because they're not taught this step. And it's not their fault. I mean, if you struggle with meditation, it's not your fault. It's that the practice isn't acknowledging some stage. Meditation is an organic byproduct of brain function. If you alter your brain to be in that function, it is inevitable that you will meditate. So it's just about filling the gaps of any current practice you have and learning to make sure that you include each level of that practice. So much of meditation starts too fast or ends too soon. And so that's what I really want to teach people, is that we need to honor each step. So here, oftentimes we skip this and try to go into meditation too fast. But again, it's not possible to move into meditation from a stress state. So we just want to disengage the amygdala a little bit. It only takes the slightest amount. There are a list of practices on my website if you want more. I'm not going to go into that list next week. I'm going to talk about specific meditation centering practices, or not centering practices, preparation practices. So this is really what I think of when I think of stage one. I'm saying I'm preparing to meditate. So there are a list of those in the store. If you want phase one practices, just find the phase one journals. They are free. Today, what I'm going to use is, we'll use a breathing practice in our meditation today. But and again, next week we'll go more deeply into this concept of preparing to meditate. But it is an important stage. And so if you've struggled being able to center your mind, this might be why. You just might be missing a simple, easy step that literally takes 1 to 2 minutes. Well, this is not an extensive part. This is just a beginning part. So then we move into stage two from there. And in stage two, what we're doing is we're centering the mind, and we become our observation. We start to break the observation out of the self. So for example, if we're using the breathing in phase one, our focus is on ourselves, but now we're getting out of the ruminating thoughts or the box we're in, and we're starting to focus on our breathing. What we need to start doing as we advance the meditation is expand that into an experience that starts to break the mind out of the story or the perception or the experience it's caught in. So this is usually taught as meditation itself, centering practices, but it's not. The definition of meditation is actually active listening, and I'm going to get into that in the next stage. But what we're doing in this state is we're just becoming centered. This is the state where we're just centering our mind. And this is the part where I talk about starts too fast, ends too soon. This is where it ends too soon for a lot of people. This is the stillness where we go into silence, but we're not looking for complete silence here. All we're looking to do is trying to move from the state of processing into the state of Observing. So the brain operates in two states. Always. It is either observing new information or it is processing the information it already has. This is monkey mind. Rumination, monkey mind, is just the brain in its processing state. Well, that's it in its primal state. What we want to start doing is teaching it to move into that state of observation that's taught in mindfulness, right? But mindfulness isn't a complete meditation practice. It is only stage 2 of the practice. And this is what makes the arduous journey. This is what makes meditation an arduous journey, is the fact that we are stopping at this stage where we have centered, but we haven't actually achieved a meditative state. And I'm going to talk about the meditative state again in the next stage. But this is just the centering state. I am now present in the room. I am present in the moment. I am present in my experience of life right now, right? And so in that, what we're doing is, as we become aware, we might do a mindfulness practice where we become aware of sound, or we become aware of the temperature and the texture of the air in the room, right? We might become aware of the food we're chewing, right? Mindfulness practices are about engaging in the moment. And what we're doing in that state is now observing. We've broken out of the processing state of mind and moved into the observing state of mind. And what we're observing now is causing the brain to trigger the prefrontal cortex. So there's a lot of information out there about how when the amygdala triggers, when the fight or flight response triggers, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. In reverse, the reverse is true as well. So when we trigger the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala shuts down. Think of the brain being in one or the other all the time. It's either in an amygdala state or a prefrontal cortex state. And the prefrontal cortex state is a state of observation. This is why mindfulness is so powerful, because it's not just quieting the amygdala, it is actually shrinking it. They have done neuroscientific studies, and in these studies over the course of 5 weeks of accurate, proper mindfulness practices, which are usually advanced meditator, but still mindfulness practices, the amygdala visibly shrinks. Now, the amygdala is about the size of the tip of my finger, so they can visibly see the difference in size after just 5 weeks of mindfulness practice. This is huge because that amygdala is causing illness. It's causing cancer. It's causing fatigue. It's causing anxiety and depression and autism and autoimmune. There's this long list of illness, because illness is the byproduct of the brain shutting down systems because it's in a fight or flight state. So if I'm able to shrink that amygdala, I am organically going to be healthier. This is why medicine is prescribing meditation, because it's evidenced through years of Far East tradition that meditation creates a happier, healthier being, right? And so that mindfulness practice is shrinking that amygdala. So we're moving out of that state. We will be using this as our stage 2 practice. Now, in the stage 2 practice, I'm not going to ask you to become masters at mindfulness, because again, this to me is only stage 2. This is just becoming centered. And I don't want to just be centered in primal brain function. I don't want to be subject to fight or flight and rest and digest. I want to move into the advanced brain function that humans are capable of experiencing, because then I'm not going to be subject to that trigger at all. I don't want to just slowly shrink the amygdala. Again, this gives you a faster result than any other method out there that is in the current health field. But there are even faster results. We can shrink that amygdala even faster by taking our meditation to that next level. So all we're trying to do in my teaching of stage 2 meditation is to just become centered enough to move into stage 3. So stage 3 again is equivalent to phase 3 in my program, this is where we tap into advanced meditation practice. So when you're looking at like this quote I did from Thich Nhat Hanh, any advanced Buddhist, particularly a lot of Sufi traditions, yogi traditions, the guru is using this advanced practice. And so what I want to do is help you understand that advanced state and how easy it is to achieve if you approach it correctly, right? So once we've calmed the mind and then centered the mind, we are now ready to move into the state of expanding the mind. Meditation is not taught to be calming. Meditation, by definition, is the actual true definition of the word meditation is to meditate is active listening. So think about the concept of I'm going to go meditate on this. That means I'm going to go and try to expand my thoughts. I'm going to try and see a new perspective, a perspective different from what I had before. Right? And so that is why meditation exists, is to expand into something new, into more awareness, into more presence, into more, right? So we are moving from what we know and have been to what we don't know and have never been. Right? And to do that, we need to observe possibility. We need to be able to observe something beyond what we already know. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick brain lesson here because this is the next level of meditation that we're teaching. This is where we start moving into the advanced function of the brain. So you hear a lot about left and right brain and being left and right brain. Okay, majority, about 90% of what's out there on the brain and left and right hemispheres is inaccurate. It's skewed to say we're more left or more right brain. Actually, the more left, if you're more one than the other, you have a psychological imbalance. So this is where mental illness and even just mild states, stress, anxiety, things like that are created, is by an imbalance between the left and right hemisphere. So the left and right hemisphere of your brains are fairly the same. They're fairly equal. They're pretty much the same. If you had one half of your brain removed, the other half would compensate. So the human body is amazing. It duplicates a lot of critical systems, like the lungs, like the kidneys, and the brain. There's two sides that are almost the same. There is one significant difference, and that is that the left brain is structured, definitive. It's what we know. So this is that box I talked about. This is our structure. And this is what's called the ego. We don't want to kill this. We don't want to get rid of this because the brain has to have structure. If it doesn't live in structure, if it lives without bounds, it goes insane. It needs something grounding, something stabilizing. So that's why confirmation bias exists or matrixing exists with the mind. Now, the right brain, on the other hand, has no definition. It's just every perspective. It's infinite possibility. But the problem is there are no language centers on the right side of the brain. So there's no way for the brain to bring that expansiveness into structure. So what we need the language centers of the left side of the brain to bring understanding to the concept. Right? And to bring it into the world. This is where I often talk about a lot of people use meditation as a form of escape. They go out into that beautiful place and then somebody says, come back into the room. Like this right brain is only accessible when we're not present. And that's a mistake. We want to integrate these two sides of the brain. We want to train that left brain, that structured brain, to go to the right brain for its answers. If you ask your mind questions, it will answer. But if it's only accessing that left brain, it will answer with what it already knows, even if it's wrong. It will answer anything. But if you can get it to seek its answer in the right brain, it now has access to infinite possibility. This is the nature of people that are innovators, inventors. Every invention known to man, every progress, the fact we live in houses and have computers, all of that came from the right brain, from the left brain activating right brain. This is where intuition comes from, epiphany. Anything like that is coming from being able to access that and being able to bring it into a structured form. So this part of the brain is the striatum that is this communication. It improves communication between the two hemispheres. So what we want to do, again, we don't want to try and just practice being able to do this if we can't, because it's impossible and it's frustrating. And then there's more self-recrimination. We start to think we're failures. No, it's a muscle in the brain. We need to work the muscle. In the same way we need to shrink the amygdala in order to reduce our fight or flight response, we need to strengthen this muscle that's the striatum so that we can improve this communication, right? And that's the issue, is there's not a lot out there that's being taught on this. I get that a lot from people in neuroscience and in nursing and psychology that have come to do my program. A lot of the people that I've certified, they said this just isn't out there, that information to do this. Now, a lot of people have ability, psychic ability or innovation or intuition. But if you still have any anxiety in your life at all, any suffering in your life at all, that amygdala is still engaged in the process. So we haven't mastered this. Think of like Buddhist monks, how calm and centered and confident and peaceful they are. This comes from building this muscle, right? And that's what we want to do, because this increases the rate at which the amygdala shrinks. So phase 4 of meditation is the final stage. This is contemplation, and this is an act of advanced meditators. This is the ability to allow something to be in your mind without understanding what it is. It's engaging the cerebellum, and again, I'm going to get into that. Every week, I'm going to dig into each one of these phases so that by the end of this 4 weeks, you can be a master meditator if you're applying the practices. So much is taught that the conscious mind is running the system. The subconscious mind is so much wiser than the conscious mind. And we tend to think we need to go through this process of training the subconscious mind. The opposite's true. Never in the history of neuroscience, not one single test, has the prefrontal cortex fired first. The prefrontal cortex is our conscious mind. It is us in the back seat of a car that the conscious mind is driving. We can only observe. The prefrontal cortex cannot control. It's just, what am I observing? Am I observing a state of being in the amygdala? Am I observing a state of being centered? What am I observing? So the prefrontal cortex is observational. It's the learning center of the brain. So, this stage of contemplation is about allowing the subconscious mind to process this cerebellum, this supercomputer. The cerebellum is genius. And so it's allowing that to exist. I always say, think of walking. Your subconscious mind, your cerebellum, controls your ability to stand and walk and run. Just try for a moment to imagine doing that consciously. Try thinking of consciously causing this muscle to flex that causes this, these actually multiple muscles at once that are going to cause the leg to lift, the mechanisms to cause you to lean forward slightly, to propel that leg forward, to plant that leg on the ground, to stabilize and put your weight on that leg while you lift the other leg. I mean, just think of every minute function that's happening. That's the ability of the cerebellum. That's the ability of the subconscious mind. To think with the 3 billion neurons against the 83 billion neurons, right? 83 billion neurons in the unconscious and subconscious mind. To think that 3 billion neurons could possibly control that is the mistake that we make the most. We cannot use the conscious mind to change the subconscious. Everything in the conscious mind is given to us by the subconscious. So even if you've had practices where you've done affirmations or something, the idea of the affirmation came out of your subconscious mind. It came out of that right brain. So if you've had an epiphany and you say, I'm going to use this as an affirmation, that affirmation actually came from this genius. So the best thing we can do is let go of control. This is surrender. And let that genius do its job. And this is the hardest stage, especially in our current culture, to learn of meditation. And this is why only the master meditators are doing it. And this is what I'm going to want to dig into, is the brain functions that are about being in this contemplative state, being able to allow a new understanding, a new epiphany to sit untouched in our mind, to prompt the subconscious mind, that master computer, to start figuring it out so that it can pop an epiphany into our conscious mind. We want to be able to do that at will all the time, not occasionally get a realization or a light bulb going off. We want to live in a light bulb state where our light bulb is always on. That is the experience of advanced meditation practices, where we are in the constant observation of new information. This changes everything and improves life exponentially. We become aware of self in the environment. Master meditators are obvious. You can see it in the person. They always have clarity of thought and an ability to come up with a new idea that helps. I mean, I'm thinking about this state and what we're going through right now, like with COVID-19, and I'm constantly thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I offer? It's about that point of being the leader, to be able to lead the people that might be triggered, rather than ever reacting to anything. We don't react to earthquakes or viruses. We always know where to move next because we're surrendering to let the subconscious mind tell us. Then we have organic emotional intelligence. It's not a thing we learn. It's a thing the brain already knows if we can shrink the amygdala. You can see it. It's compassion, it's integrity, it's calm, and it's always listening. It's living in a constant listening state, a constant state of observation that keeps this engaged, so the brain starts to say, I no longer need the amygdala. I can start using the striatum and grow the insula. And I'll get into all those advanced brain functions as we move forward in this. So, we're going to learn how to create a unique practice. I am not going to teach you my meditation practice. Every brain works differently, but I'm going to teach you how to create your own that fits you. You already know what you need to know. All we need to do is put those puzzle pieces together. So we're going to identify your puzzle pieces, and then I'm going to help you put them together so that you get a meditation practice that is specifically designed for your brain. Then we're going to learn how to be calm in any storm through using this meditation practice. We're going to measure significant results literally within weeks. Right? You're going to be being able to meditate like a master meditator. And I had this thought come to mind. It was an old saying that proof is in the pudding concept. You're going to see the results, and that's going to be your proof. It's not going to be my word. It's going to be your results that you're seeing. And we're going to master the art of making life a meditation. So we're not going to find moments of stillness. We're going to train our brain to live in a meditative state all the time. So think of your best meditation practice, of that moment where you reach that state of bliss. It's about living in that state all the time. And so we can live a life of stillness that easily manages chaos. What we're going to do is go ahead and move into the meditation now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 10-minute meditation. We've already been in a state of observation because we're learning a new way of being. And so within that state of observation, we've already done the first couple stages, but I'm going to review them in this meditation. So again, what I said I was going to do for stage 1 today is breathing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask you to be aware of your state of consciousness right now. Just be aware of your body, notice it. And this is just good because, again, I want you to be able to measure the result. So I'd like you to just be aware of where you are now. Now I'd like you to just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, completely fill your lungs all the way into your belly. And then just let out that breath in a slow, comfortable way. Just taking your time. A good thing to do when doing deep breathing is to do a 3-second breath. So all you do is take it in for a second, hold it for a second, exhale for a second. Some of you might be more comfortable with 2 seconds on the exhale and no pause. Some people might like a slower inhale. Listen to yourself. Make your own practice. If people have told you you need to breathe in a certain way and it's not comfortable for you, find what's comfortable. You're trying to calm the system right now. So we're going to take a second breath. Just become aware of the comfortable pace for you. And exhale when you're ready. And then we're going to do one more. So taking another breath in. And exhaling again. Now what I'd like you to do is become aware again of your body. Is there a difference? Are your shoulders a little more relaxed? Is your mind just a little bit more quiet? Again, it doesn't need to be all of the way to center. Just notice if there's a difference. This is all we're looking for. It's just a slight change. And then what we do is we move into our second stage of meditation, which is we now expand our observation. So we've checked in with our body, we've taken 3 deep breaths, and we've checked in with our body again. We've shifted the awareness of self to being aware of where we are and what we're feeling in this moment. Now I'd like you to expand that awareness. Become aware of the temperature and texture of the air where you are. How does it feel against your skin? Are there any sounds you are aware of around you? Sounds you might not have noticed before. Become aware of sounds in the room or sounds that might be happening outside. And in addition, become aware of the sound inherent in your ears. We are always hearing something. So for some of us, it might be a low tone. For others, it might be the sound of static. For others, it might be a ringing sensation. We always have this there. Just be aware of it. We're not going to judge it or wish anything would be any way other than it is. Oftentimes in meditation, we're taught we need to be in a quiet room and that we can't meditate when there's noise. If we become in an observational state, we can build curiosity around noises that would normally have triggered us. So we've become, as a culture, those that live in a state where they can trigger, noise can become a big trigger. Different noises, different sounds may bother you. Like the sound of people talking too loud in a restaurant, or whispering in a theater, or the tone of certain people's voices, or kids being loud. They're often told to learn an inside voice because we've become so sensitive to sensory information. What you want to do in mindfulness is just become aware of that sensory information. What are you hearing? Is there a scent in the air or a taste in your mouth that you can become aware of? Do you see anything on the back of your eyelids? If your eyes are closed, if you're using a soft gaze, what are you noticing about what you see? Become curious. Don't try and shut things out to be a meditator. Meditation, we want to expand, so we need to be part of the world. We're not here to escape. We're here to be more present. You won't need to escape if you can achieve a calm, confident place. So become aware of it. Now I want to take you into just the beginning of activating that stage 3 that I'm talking about. And this is where the work for the week is going to be. So this is going to be the homework I give you for the week. I want you to ask yourself a question. What is available for me in my current experience of life that I'm not noticing? What is available for me in my current experience of life that I'm not noticing? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a moment of silence to answer that question. If you need more silence than the time I give you, pause the recording and just continue to write until you feel complete. I often talk about meditation without articulation yields no results. So you need to bring that contemplation you're doing in your right brain. Right now, this question will cause your left brain to reach for your right brain for an answer. And I'll go into details about how that works when we get into the third stage of meditation. But you need to draw that information out of the right brain and back into the left brain, into language. So you can speak it, you can write it, you can type it. Any of those that you do is unique to you. One, it's not about right or wrong, but you do need to articulate it. So what you're going to do is, again, I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer the question, and I'm going to be silent while you do that. The question is, what is available to me in my current experience of life that I'm not noticing? The silence begins now. Okay, so if you need more time to continue writing, rather than interrupting your thought with what I'm about to do, go ahead and hit pause on your video and then listen to the end. I'm just going to give homework for the week. So listen to the end when you feel complete. So for those of you that are ready, your homework for the week is to take the most difficult conditions in your life. So whether it's the experience of the earthquakes, or it's concerns over COVID, or not having work, or anything that's happening, if you're struggling in a relationship, if you're struggling financially, emotionally, if you have health issues, any of those, what you're going to do is each day during your meditation time, I recommend 20 minutes of meditation practice a day. So you're going to give 1 to 2 minutes of breathing. Doesn't even need to take that long. So you're going to take anywhere between 3 to 10 deep breaths, becoming aware of the shift in your body. Then you're just going to become aware of the room around you. That should only take a couple minutes. You want to keep the first 2 stages of meditation during this practice till just, well, what I'm going to say is keep the first part, the centering, to as short as you can. It is important to center. So if you need to take 10 minutes in those first 2 stages, take those. If you need the full 20 minutes, take them. But I'd like you to get to the point where after you've done your observation, you're going to do breathing, and then you're going to go through all 5 senses in observation. So you're going to go through sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. You're just going to become aware of the room or the space around you if you're outside at a park or something. You're just becoming aware. And then you're going to take that one issue in your life that's been something that's been a struggle, and you're going to ask the question, what is available to me in my life that can help me with this condition that I'm not noticing? The words in that sentence are important, so write them down. What is available to me in this experience of my life, this condition, that I'm not noticing? And you'll do that, and then you're going to write. I'd like you to write for 20 minutes. If you can only write for 2 minutes because you were too stressed and you needed more time to calm down, that's fine. Those first stages of meditation are important. And then next week we will dig into the into the details of the stages and the brain function associated with them and the states we want to achieve with each. So it will get easier and easier each week because we are going to master each stage. So I just want to thank everyone for joining me.